Welcome to the next set of lessons from my free method book. You can download the whole 100-page PDF method book off the website or from the link in the YouTube info section there. And there's no sign up required or anything, you just download the book. So let me play these next couple pieces. Etude number 5, Etude number 6, Etude number 7, and Etude number 8. Make sure you've gone over the previous lessons in the book because the book is progressive, so you're supposed to be gaining skills as you go. These pieces are the first time that you have melody with bass accompaniment. So it's written in one voice, but at this point it's just a melody with bass accompaniment. That's for number 5. Same thing for number 6. Number 7 is an arpeggio piece, and number 8 is an arpeggio piece as well. So let me play you the pieces, and then we'll have lessons on each piece with a couple tips about guitar playing and guitar technique, as well as musicality for the pieces. So, Etude number 5, Waltz. And Etude number 6, Allegro. Etude number 7, the Lonely Dogwood. A dogwood is a tree. It's the provincial tree of British Columbia, where I'm from in Canada. It's a nice tree with these white flowers on it, just so you know. And Etude number 8, Prelude. Okay, let's have a little lesson on these couple of pieces. So let's go back to Etude number 5, which is Waltz. So this is the first piece in the book where you have a melody and bass accompaniment. So the melody's on the top strings. So I'd recommend, so you want all the notes to sustain. Because where it's written in the method book, it's not written in 2 voices, but it's actually kind of 2 different separate pieces, right? There's a melody, which is the upper notes, and then there's the bass notes, which are down here. The bass notes aren't the melody. So if we were to just play the upper notes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the way the melody should sound. So we have to hold our fingers down on those notes. Oops, the A. And then we're just going to add in the accompaniment voice, which is the bass notes on open strings. Do you hear how the melody's ringing over top of those notes? So don't play the piece like this. Let everything sustain. So this is getting you much closer to like real classical guitar pieces or like solo fingerstyle pieces where you have a melody, but you also have all the chord work and the bass lines and all that kind of cool stuff. But luckily, all the bass notes here are just on open strings, so they'll be nice and easy. You can just really focus on playing a nice melody, and you have a little bit of extra cushion of sound underneath with those bass notes. So be very careful of your right hand fingering, and of course, all the things we've talked about before. So your guitar posture, so the head of the guitar at eye level, this hand nicely arched, not down here like this. We're using free strokes in this piece. And we're using our fourth finger on D's and G's. But besides that, I don't have too much else to say. Just make sure you're sustaining those notes. And it's a waltz, so make sure you have a good sense of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You probably will just end up feeling the piece pretty much just in one. Thump, 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 thump. But make sure that each bar is getting a little bit of emphasis on the first beat, so it's a waltz. Etude number 6, Allegro. This piece has a real specific purpose in terms of teaching. It's teaching you scale runs. So all these little passages, they're just like, they're scales. They're all scales on the way down, and then a really long one. So you might have noticed, like in this, I haven't introduced, I don't have you playing scales in the book yet, but you know that musicians play scales. It's just more fun to kind of like work on your scale work in terms of a piece at this level in your development. Later, you have to work on scales to continue to develop your technique over spans of time. But for now, this is just a great way for students to practice their scales in the context of a piece that they can play for others or at concerts and stuff like that. So most important thing is to alternate those fingers and let the last note of each scale run sustain. So you hear how that's ringing out? Well, you just want to make sure it rings out. Same thing on the end of the second line. If it's a fretted note, you have to keep your finger on the note to let it ring. I think the piece just sounds better. Otherwise, it would sound like this. It's just a little too abrupt. So let that top note just ring out. And just make sure you're really being careful about your alternating fingers. You always have to alternate fingers. Do not repeat any fingers, except for the thumb. The thumb can repeat in this particular song. The Lonely Dogwood, or Etude number 7, I kind of named these pieces just more for kids using the book. Adults, if you want, you can just call them Etude number 7. This piece introduces the A finger into arpeggios. So we've been learning a lot of arpeggio pieces, simple arpeggio pieces. This one activates all the fingers that we usually use, P, I, M, and A. So the most important thing when you're doing any of these arpeggio pieces is just to keep the hands still, right? If your hand's all over the place, it's really hard to be accurate. So keep your hand nice and still and get that thumb in front of the fingers. If you're using a bad guitar position, your thumb might be competing with your index finger for space. Just keep the thumb in front. And get those fingers moving into the palm. None of this. And none of this yanking strings out. So just moving the fingers in towards the palm with keeping your hand arched and your hand stable and still. This piece also introduces chord arpeggios. Arpeggios are chords, but we haven't, to this point yet, done full kind of like chords, so like a full A minor chord here. You don't have to know that it's called A minor just yet, although if you're working through the chord supplement at the end of the book, you might already know that. But the important thing at the moment is just that you keep both fingers down. So the second line, you have to put 2 and 1 down, and then you just hold them there. Let all the notes ring out. Do not do this. You know, where you play one note at a time and you let go of notes. Keep both fingers on the notes so they both ring out. And then it's just all up to the right hand. And there is like a little melody on the top voice, especially at the end, right? These G's at the top, then it moves to an F. There's a really nice dogwood right outside my window, actually. The city just planted one in front of my house, so I look at one every day. If you want to look up the dogwood online, I would look up the Pacific dogwood. I'm pretty sure that there's lots of varieties and different types of dogwoods, so I'm not exactly sure which one is out there. Etude number 8. If you had seen my previous method book, this was like the first piece in the method book. So it's a pretty simplistic piece, but since it's later in the book now, it introduces some bass notes, so notes on the bass strings. So that's one thing. But you can probably play it at a higher level than when it was in the previous method book. In the previous method book, this was the very first piece students would play. Now that it's later in the book, you can play it at a higher level. But it essentially just introduces some bass string notes. Same thing here. Keep the thumb in front of the fingers. And try to create some shaping across the lines. Not all even, but you're probably not going to count this in 3/4. It's just written that way because we haven't really got into more complex time signatures yet. But you'll probably end up just feeling it as 1, 1, 1. You know, just feeling the first of each group. But if you're working slowly, you can count through the beats. So next we're going to be moving into 8th notes and a C major scale and some other nice little pieces that include 8th notes. So we can get into some slightly more complex rhythms and things like that. So that's a really good move because now you can play melodies, you can play arpeggios, you can play melodies with bass accompaniment. Then you're going to be able to play melodies with 8th notes, which opens up the whole world of melodies because we've been pretty restricted so far since we've only been using quarter notes and half notes really. So that will really open up the musical world to you.